How to Train Your Thoughts and Transform Your Life with Affirmations. Storytime by T. Santoro. 2 days before turning 40. Professor Alex Stone stood in front of the mirror, toothbrush in hand, barely moving. The steam from the shower still clung to the bathroom mirror like a fogged-up memory. Professor Stone wasn't just brushing his teeth. He was unraveling a thought that had been nagging at him for weeks. He taught philosophy at the local university. He spoke about Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates like they were neighbors. But that morning, Professor Stone wasn't thinking about philosophers. He was thinking about himself, his own life, his own thoughts, and how maybe, just maybe, those thoughts weren't just reactions to life. "What if my thoughts are more like ingredients?" he whispered, mid-rinse. "And every emotion I feel is the dish I end up serving to myself every single day?" He stood still. That idea hit different, because it meant that stress wasn't caused by traffic or grading essays, but by how he chose to think about those things. It meant his health, his emotions, even his energy were like recipes. And he was the chef. That morning, like most others, Professor Stone followed his usual routine. Coffee in hand. Morning stretch routine. As he packed up his bag and headed out the door, he felt a shift of energy around him. Professor Stone felt it, like a new awareness had woken up inside him. As he stood on the lecture stage, facing his students, something told him to skip the textbook lessons today. He told the class, "Today, we will not be discussing Plato or Socrates." Nothing was written on the whiteboard. Instead, the professor asked a question that silenced the room. "Have you ever had a dream so real? Your body actually responded?" The students didn't blink. They didn't even move. Every eye was fixed on the professor. "I mean it. Have you ever woken up sweating, heart pounding, maybe even screaming? All because of something that wasn't real? You didn't fall, but your body reacted like you did. Why is that?" All of his students were now leaning in a bit more, perhaps more out of curiosity as to where today's lecture was going. But the professor knew he had them. He continued, "Our minds don't need something to be real in order to respond to it. Our thoughts are powerful. They shape our reality. Because when there's no resistance, when you believe any thought completely, your body automatically follows. Your energy shifts. Your emotions create." And that's when a spark came to life. Not in the room, but in him. Professor Stone wasn't just teaching. He was rediscovering. The lecture hall has now become a theater of consciousness. And over the next hour, the professor didn't lecture. He shared stories, analogies, and his own reflections. He opened up about the hard parts, the hidden thoughts, the days when he questioned everything. The professor stopped hiding behind theories and started walking through truths. He shared a private moment with the class about when his wife left him 5 years earlier. He went on to say, "For months, I kept thinking it was because I wasn't good enough, smart enough, lovable enough. And guess what? Those thoughts made me feel exactly that way. I remember how my body sunk with shame. Even my posture drooped. I was getting ill. My immune system was weakened. I asked myself, why am I so powerless to change the way I am thinking? I just keep harboring on the bad feelings. I feel like I have no control over them, like my circumstances dictate my feelings." I realized my thoughts were more like the meal than the ingredients, and I was, without resistance, eating every single one. I decided to start doing something new. I wanted to begin deliberately controlling my thoughts. I said out loud to myself just one sentence, which was spoken like an invitation. Every morning, before the world starts talking, I choose to feel how I desire to feel. From that moment on, Professor Stone became a different kind of teacher. One who wove real life into every lesson. One who walked with his students through philosophy. But more importantly, through life. Professor Stone challenged himself and his class to embrace 6 affirmations. Every morning, he explained, repeat these affirmations with belief, and you will change your life. Chapter 1. Today, I choose to be happy. It started with a sticky note on his mirror. I choose to be happy. Professor Stone started to not only repeat the affirmation, but also to imagine the feeling of being happy. That feeling stirred up good energy as he thought. The stories of feeling happy are nice, but ultimately, in the end, it is my choice. No story, just choice. As the professor continued his lecture, he brought up a time his car wouldn't start. How he got upset, angry, even kicked the tires. I had to get to class either way, with or without the car. The professor recalled how he reacted, how his emotions spiraled. He saw how his thoughts created his entire mood. This time, he laughed. Some things in life we are not in control of, like the weather, or even our car. But now I pay more attention to choosing to be happy, he said. Kim, a student, raised her hand. Please, I'm not even awake yet, and you're saying I can choose to be happy? Josh murmured. Sounds like you're in a cult. You do know you can't just choose to feel happy, especially when outside circumstances say otherwise. Professor Stone continued, yes, life is life. Just like I still had to get to class either way. And well, it even started to rain. Stacy, another student asked, did you get your car started? Nope. I took the bus, and with a burst of anger, I grabbed my umbrella and headed out. Too bad. If only I knew then what I now know. I would have just happily grabbed my umbrella instead of angrily picking it up. See, Josh? Circumstances sometimes do suck, but we still have the power to choose. When you say you can't, or that it's impossible to choose your own thoughts, that too is a choice. So either way, you're choosing. Professor Stone added, I really can't believe I was so mad about the car. That I totally ignored how grateful I am just to be able to walk, to breathe, to even grab an umbrella. Josh interrupted and said, yeah, but that's like an afterthought, right? Sure, now you can say you would feel happy. But when you're in it? Yes, Josh. Creating a new way of thinking, feeling, and becoming does require a conscious effort. This isn't magic. It's deliberate thinking, to the point where it becomes automatic. Stacy chimed in, but your car not starting must have been a big inconvenience. How can anyone be happy in that situation? Oh yes, just like stepping in that puddle before getting on the bus. So now I reflect. I see that at the end of the day, I was still me, grateful for the breath in my lungs, for the smile on my face. I learned that happiness isn't about what happens in our outer world. It's about the ingredients we choose to create the meal we want to eat. Chapter 2. I am grateful for everything I have. Professor Stone shared with the class how gratitude started small for him. A quiet thank you whispered to himself in the morning. It was in this recognition that life, even in its simplest form, is a gift. While standing in front of the class, he held up a journal and flipped through it slowly. Each page had 3 lines, 3 blank spaces. Every morning, he filled them with small, truthful things. I am grateful for my warm socks. I am grateful for the breath in my lungs. I am grateful for that text from my sister. This practice started to create momentum in the right direction. The professor told a story of a night when he sat on his porch with a book about Play-Doh in his hands. He sound of rain tapping softly on the ground. There was nothing extraordinary about that night. But in that moment, he felt everything. Gratitude, he explained, doesn't show up like a marching band. It invites you to notice, and it's in that moment, this invitation, that everything changes. If you choose to focus on things like lack, loneliness, or not feeling like you're enough, you will experience those circumstances in your life. When you focus on gratitude, when you choose abundance over lack, you begin to shift. Emily, a student, said out loud, without even realizing she did, how can I ever feel abundance in my life when there is so much lack? Professor Stone said, take a deep breath, Emily. What did you just notice? She paused. Wow, I noticed that there is an abundance of air to breathe. Now look outside, he said. What do you see? Emily replied, I see an abundance of trees and grass. Professor Stone looked right at Emily and said, "Now you see it. This is the momentum of gratitude. Grateful for friends in our life. Grateful for the tacos from the local taco truck. Gratitude begins with you, with your thoughts. Your focus on thinking abundance will start to fade the opposite out. In this case, lack. Gratitude moves you toward abundance. It's all in the way you choose to think. That is why now I freely accept and believe this affirmation. I am grateful and thankful I have the power to choose." Chapter 3. I am capable of achieving great things. This one felt personal. It was an old thought that had lingered for years. A quiet echo from the past. You see, Professor Stone had once doubted himself. Not the kind of doubt others could see from the outside, but the kind that whispered in the stillness of his own mind. The kind that made him question if he was ever truly enough. The professor shared a story about something he had written. A story that had sat untouched in a drawer for over a year. He remembered feeling proud of it at first, but that pride slowly gave way to doubt. Maybe it wasn't as good as he thought. Maybe no one would care. So he kept it hidden. Then one morning, after repeating this affirmation out loud, I am capable of achieving great things, he felt something real. He pulled the pages out, read them again, and without overthinking, he sent it to a publication. Weeks passed. Then came the email. It had been accepted, published. To his amazement, people began sharing it. Some even quoted lines from it. But what touched him most was the moment a student walked into his office in tears, holding the story in her hand. She said it helped her hear her own inner voice for the first time. The professor smiled gently. "I almost didn't share it because I thought it wasn't good enough," he said. But greatness isn't about perfection. It's about showing up and giving what you have. Chapter 4. I choose to focus on what I can control. Professor Stone began to tell his students how he used to spend his entire mornings wrapped up in worry. Thoughts about what went wrong yesterday would follow him into today, bringing those unsettled feelings along like a repeating track that never stopped. He would scroll through the news, replay old arguments, think about how he tried to fix problems that weren't even his. But now, Professor Stone, armed with positive affirmations, he read, I choose to focus on what I can control. Then he asked himself, what can I control in my life today? The professor explained to his class how he made a list of desired thoughts, feelings, emotions, even the tone he used in class, right down to the way he desired to speak to people. And that's what he chose to focus on. Everything else, like undesirable thoughts, he gave them no more energy. He noticed how their grip on him faded the more he gave energy to the thoughts he desired. And in that moment, he realized, my deliberate thoughts count more than old, unwanted, habitual thoughts. As he stood in front of the class, the professor raised a question to his students. Think about a time that you felt really happy or elated, he said, like witnessing the birth of your child, or getting a special Christmas present you really wanted. Now remember that feeling. It felt good, right? Okay, hang on to that feeling. Come on. Do this for a moment. Hold that feeling. You got it? You feel that feeling? Okay. Now, remove the story. Ask yourself, where did the feeling come from? Remember, no story attached. The professor leaned back and said, do you know where that feeling came from? The students waited eagerly as he said, it came from you. The story only helped you align to the feeling, but you ultimately chose the feeling. Nicole said, but no story, then no feelings. The professor smiled, and that too is a choice. Remember, everything you feel always comes from you. Chapter 5. I dedicate myself to becoming the best version of me. As the lecture hall grew silent, his students leaned in, eager to learn more. The professor faced the class. How many of you spend time thinking about yourself? Not the version you desire, but the one you currently see? Maybe you want to lose weight. Maybe you're just not there yet. Now, how many of you ever think about yourself as the best version of you? Or do you just accept and believe what you see in the mirror? The professor went deeper. This affirmation, it's truly done something to me. My physical being, my health, my well-being. A simple but powerful affirmation I began to repeat every morning. I dedicate myself to becoming the best version of me. Then I pause. I close my eyes, and I visualize myself as I truly want to be. My health, my body, my thinking, my overall presence. And in that moment, I begin to see it, like a movie in my mind. I see myself as I desire to be. I feel it, as if I am it now. Piece by piece, I start noticing the best version of me, showing up in my everyday life. As the professor walked around the podium, making eye contact with the students, I always wanted to learn how to cook. One day, I signed up for a cooking class. I was so excited, eager to learn. The instructor was a well-known chef from a local restaurant who dedicated her time to teaching others. Her class was highly sought after. I knew I was in the right place. Then we started to cook, and I burned the curry. Not once, but twice. The students laughed gently. It wasn't so much the embarrassment of burning the curry. It was more the teasing that came afterward. As the smell of burnt curry lingered through the entire class. Later that evening, I remember reflecting on the class. That curry smell had somehow drifted home with me, like a lesson that refused to fade. I realized that learning to cook wasn't about being the best. It was about growing. It was about staying curious, committed, and at times, humble. For one of the most important lessons, he told his class, is to learn what to do by remembering what not to do. If only I had put my burner on low, I would have never burned the curry. I now know that becoming the best version of me does not show up all at once. Chapter 6. I choose to make a positive impact today. As the class was coming to an end, the professor went on with just one more affirmation. I choose to make a positive impact today. Professor Stone sat on the steps leading up to the stage. I want you all to know that when you improve yourself by deliberate thinking, you are also impacting the lives of others. Before today's lecture, I asked myself, how can I make a positive impact on my students today? Once again, in reflection, he said, I'm reminded of a former student who reached out to me, asking for some advice on switching careers. He had started his own company and was cleaning out an old drawer when he saw a phrase I once wrote on his quiz paper. It simply said, "You matter." He went on to tell me, I was ready to close my company. I was losing faith in myself. But all I could think about was what you wrote on my quiz. It was that kept me going. And I'm proud to tell you, my business is thriving. Class, it was in this moment that I knew. Just letting others know they count creates a ripple effect. So you see, being the best version of ourselves is more of an amplifier of good, something others can see in themselves, and then they pass it on. Good things, one ripple at a time, can become something great. And it all starts with your intentional thinking on choosing to make the best impact today. Final reflection. Professor Stone wasn't just educating minds. He was waking up his own. And it all began with a choice. Every morning, before the noise, before the news, before the scrolling, choose. Say it, see it, feel it, believe it. Today, I choose to be happy. I am grateful for everything I have. I am capable of achieving great things. I choose to focus on what I can control. I dedicate myself to becoming the best version of me. I choose to make a positive impact today. And know this, for the power to choose is already within you. See you in the stillness. If this story spoke to you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, And remember to click the bell so you always hear a new story. And if you know someone who could use this message, share it with them. Because sometimes, a simple story is all it takes to spark something real.